The morning sun spilled across a neighborhood that looked deceptively peaceful from a distance. Neat houses lined the streets, their lawns freshly cut, the fences straight and painted. But just a few blocks away, the illusion broke apart. There, the clean order gave way to piles of trash and broken things, discarded boxes, torn bags, rotten food, and broken furniture scattered across the open ground. The smell of waste mixed with dust, and stray dogs prowled through the heaps, searching for scraps of survival. Amid this wasteland, a girl of perhaps 10 or 11 stood barefoot. Her hair was unkempt, falling over her thin face, her clothes stained with dust. In her arms she held a baby wrapped in a tattered golden cloth that once might have been part of something beautiful. The child squirmed weakly, letting out soft cries that pierced the still air. The girl's dark eyes were calm but heavy, carrying more weight than any child should. She held the infant close, rocking gently as if she could shield him from the harshness of the world around them. A man in a tailored navy blue suit stood a few feet behind her. He looked out of place here, like a figure cut from a magazine and dropped onto a ruined canvas. His polished shoes sank slightly into the dust, his neatly pressed trousers catching the sunlight. He was tall, with a trimmed beard, sharp features, and the stillness of someone used to power and control. He had come here by chance, or maybe fate. His name was Harris Stone, and people in the city knew him as one of the wealthiest men alive. They called him a billionaire, though the title never captured the full reality of what he possessed. Skyscrapers that reached into the clouds, sprawling estates, fleets of cars, yachts, private jets, and companies that dictated the flow of money across nations. Yet for all his wealth, Harris lived in a silence of his own making, one where numbers mattered more than faces, and profits outweighed the cries of the forgotten. But now, standing in this wasteland, watching a girl clutching her brother, he felt something he hadn't in years. The girl's name was Aima. Her life had never been defined by comfort. Her father, once a construction laborer, had died in an accident at the site where he worked without safety gear. Compensation never came, his death was just another statistic in the ledger of losses. Her mother had struggled for years, cleaning houses, taking on odd jobs, until illness claimed her too. Aima had been left alone with her baby brother, Rihan. She should have been playing in a schoolyard, learning to read, discovering the world. Instead, she had been forced to grow up overnight. Each day was the same routine, scavenging the garbage piles for scraps of food, searching for bottles or cans she could sell for a few coins, carrying her brother wherever she went because leaving him alone meant danger. She was child and caretaker, sister and mother, survivor and guardian all in one. Hunger gnawed at her constantly. The kind of hunger that hollowed the stomach and dulled the senses until nothing mattered but the next morsel. Sometimes neighbors tossed her stale bread or spoiled rice. Sometimes she went without anything at all. Yet through it all, she carried herself with a quiet dignity, never begging openly, never lowering her eyes in shame. Harris shifted uncomfortably, his polished shoes crunching over broken glass. He wasn't supposed to be here. His driver had taken a wrong turn while bringing him back from a real estate meeting. They had slowed down near the wasteland when he saw her, this frail girl holding a baby, sifting through trash. Something about the sight had made him tell the driver to stop. Something in the way she stood, the determination in her small frame, had pinned him where he was. He cleared his throat, his voice heavy in the silence. "Little girl," he called. "What are you doing here?" Aima turned, her eyes meeting his. There was no fear in them, no awe at the sight of his expensive suit or the authority in his tone. She answered simply, her words steady. "I'm looking for food. My brother is hungry." Her honesty was disarming. Harris had expected a plea, maybe tears or outstretched hands. Instead, he got the truth, bare and unpolished. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a wad of crisp bills. He held them out. "Here," he said. "Take this. Buy what you need." Aima glanced at the money but didn't move. She tightened her grip on Rihan, her lips pressing into a firm line. "Money feeds for a day," she said softly, almost to herself. "But tomorrow we will still be hungry." The words struck him harder than he cared to admit. Harris lowered his hand, staring at her. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to him without flattery or fear. That night, Harris couldn't sleep. He lay in his penthouse apartment overlooking the city skyline, lights twinkling like stars across the concrete jungle. The sheets were silk, the room climate controlled, every luxury at his fingertips. Yet his mind replayed the image of Aima standing barefoot in the dirt, her brother clutched against her chest. He remembered his own childhood, something he rarely allowed himself to think about. He hadn't been born into riches. His father had run a small shop, his mother a seamstress. They had struggled, but they had given him love, and more importantly, they had taught him compassion. He remembered a boy he once knew in school, who often came without lunch. Harris used to share his sandwich with him. That boy had been his friend, until Harris' ambitions pulled him away, into a world where profit came before people. Now, lying awake, Harris wondered, what had he become? A man who could buy anything but had forgotten what it meant to care. The next morning, Harris gave instructions to his team. He wanted food packages delivered to the slums. He wanted shelters set up. He wanted funds allocated, not as charity for show, but as real, structured aid. His assistants stared at him in disbelief, but he waved away their questions. He returned to the wasteland, this time with trucks carrying meals, clothes, and medicines. He found Aima in the same place, rocking Rihan gently while he whimpered in hunger. When she saw him, she frowned slightly, unsure why he had returned. I told you, she said quietly, money doesn't change tomorrow. Harris smiled faintly. I know. That's why I came back with more than money. He signaled to the workers, who began distributing food to the children who had gathered, their eyes wide with hope. Harris walked closer to Aima and knelt down so he was at her level. I want to help you. Not just today. You and your brother deserve a chance to live, to learn, to dream. Will you let me help? Ima's lips trembled, her eyes filling with tears she had held back for too long. She nodded slowly. For the first time in years, she felt the weight on her small shoulders lighten. Over the months that followed, Ima's life transformed. Harris arranged for her and Rihan to live in a safe home. He enrolled her in school, provided proper care for the baby, and ensured they had enough to eat. But it wasn't just them, his efforts expanded. Shelters rose across the city, schools opened for children who had never seen a classroom, hospitals offered free care. Harris invested millions, but more importantly, he invested his time. For every ribbon-cutting ceremony, he remembered the silent dignity in Ima's eyes. For every speech he gave, he thought of her words. Tomorrow we will still be hungry. Those words became the foundation of his mission, to build a tomorrow where no child went to bed starving. Years passed. Aima grew into a bright young woman, her spirit unbroken by the hardships of her early life. She excelled in her studies, determined to use her education not just for herself but for others like her. Rihan grew strong and healthy, a boy with laughter in his voice instead of hunger in his cries. And Harris, once a man lost in the pursuit of wealth, found something far more valuable, meaning. He discovered that true richness was not in the size of his bank account but in the lives he touched, the futures he helped shape, the silent cries he answered. The world outside continued to chase money, power, and fame. But in a quiet corner of the city, where once only trash and despair had ruled, children now played freely, their laughter echoing against the sky. And among them, Aima stood, her eyes bright with hope, holding her brother's hand, knowing that the future, once bleak and uncertain, was now wide open. Because one man had stopped. One man had listened. One man had remembered his humanity.